Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name's Jen, and today I'm going to be talking to you about my journey through chronic illness. This is a topic that's really important to me. I've struggled with chronic illness it's been a buildup for probably about 10 years, but it's been like really heavy the last 5 years or so, and it's really important to me to share my story and to experience other people's stories to kind of build up that sense of community so you can share not only feelings and frustrations but also kind of create that bubble of positivity that you can share with people and remind them that they're not alone. So in 2012, I went to the doctor because I'd been having a lot of hip pain and it was hard for me to walk. And this was something I'd been experiencing for years. There were times, even back in middle school, where I would just be sitting on the playground and like out of nowhere, it would feel like one of my hip joints had like slipped out of socket a little bit, or like when you jam your finger or something and it hurts really bad and like the skin around it gets like warm feeling almost, and it hurts really bad for a little while and you don't do anything, but then it just is okay again. That used to happen to me like a few times a year, and it was just like a really weird thing and I didn't know what it was, but it started to get worse. It happened more often. I was having more and more pain. And I finally just went to the doctor, just like a small general practitioner, hometown doctor. And I was diagnosed in the summer of 2012 with rheumatic fever, which I had never heard of. I didn't know anything about. Did a ton of research on it. Super rare disease. It's an autoimmune disease. Which basically means that, specifically with rheumatic fever, it's that you get the strep germ in your body, like when you get strep throat, but you don't show any symptoms, so your body like kicks into overdrive to fight it off and then can't turn itself off. So when that germ is gone, your body just starts attacking itself. So I was like, oh, okay, that explains that. You know, there weren't treatment really. I got put on antibiotics that I had to take every day to try to prevent me from getting strep again. There was some kind of levels that were too high that they tested for in my blood every 6 months. I was just supposed to wait for those to go down, and I was like, all right. So a year or so went by. Things weren't really changing at all, and I thought the whole thing was kind of weird, so I went and got a second opinion. I went to a different doctor, but he worked at the same building, which maybe wasn't the best choice, but he was just like, yeah, this is what you have. So I was like, oh, okay, I got a second opinion. They agreed. All right. So I started doing tons of research. I was trying to get people to support the Heart Association. Like, I was just like really into fighting this fight for rheumatic fever and like trying to get behind it and everything, which was good, and that is something you should still get behind. But things just kind of got worse, and it was really, I had days where I couldn't walk. The symptoms were just getting worse all the time. It's kind of hard to describe, but the worst pain I have, it's all over, but the worst is in my hips and in my wrists, and it's like way deep down inside your joints, and it's like soreness and aching, and it's so intense. But then other times it'll feel more like on the surface, like pinching or scratching, or I have tattoos. I don't know if you don't have tattoos, if that'll make sense, but like that like irritating scratching feeling on your skin, it feels like someone's doing that, but inside my body, like on the inside of my joints. So there's just like weird different symptoms, different things hurt on different days, different times. It also came with chronic fatigue. Like, I have to get at least 8 hours of sleep a night, otherwise it's really, really hard for me to function. It's just like weakness, tiredness, all of that stuff. But all of that just kept getting worse, and I was like, what is going on? I actually had moved out of state to go to college, continue going to college, and my first semester there, I actually flunked out of a class because I missed too many days because I couldn't walk. And I wasn't really sure how to handle it. I didn't tell anybody that I had this disease. Like, I just didn't think that it was that big of a deal. But then when I flunked out of the class, obviously it was way too late for me to just be like, oh, wait, I have this disease. That's why I've been missing school. Like, it doesn't work like that. So when I flunked out of a class, I was like, okay, it's time to tell people. So after that, I started telling professors at the beginning of the semester. Obviously, I try really, really hard not to miss school, but some days I just wake up and I can't walk. And that's just kind of how that goes. In that same year, I guess, so we're now in like fall of 2013. This isn't really a short version, but that's okay. You can skip ahead if you get bored. So in fall of 2013, I started using a walking cane, which was hard for me at first, mostly because I was afraid that people were going to look at me different. I was really afraid to like start using it like around my boyfriend, which he was just like, that's so dumb, like, you're the same, just with a little extra accessory, which now I've been using the cane for, well, it's 2018, about 5 years. So, you know, I can walk pretty fast with it and stuff, so now it's just like an everyday thing that's no big deal, but I do still use the cane. But that helped a lot. Ever since then, there's been like fewer days where I can't walk at all. Sometimes I might still have to go into school late because it's hard for me to get up in the morning, but that was a tremendous help. But after a couple years of that, I was like, my blood levels that were too high went back to normal, but nothing was any different. So I went back to the doctor and we were like, okay, what's going on? So he sent me to a rheumatologist, which a little bit, I was kind of like, why didn't we do this way earlier? But that was whatever. But if you ever had to go to a specialist, you know that it's really irritating because I had to wait 6 months before I could see a rheumatologist, which was really frustrating, and I kept just getting like more and more nervous. By this time, that was, I guess, 2016, because I had moved back close to where I grew up, started going to grad school, and I finally get to see this rheumatologist, and she was kind of like up in the air about everything. She was like, we're gonna send you to the infectious diseases department, which I was just like, ooh, that's fun and exciting. So I had to wait like a month or so to go see them, and the rheumatologist didn't really tell me why. She just was like, oh, I'm sending you over here, and I was like, all right. So I wait a couple months and I go there, and what I was hoping was gonna happen was they were gonna say, your rheumatic fever is better, here's what else is going on. But instead, I knew something, it was very serious, because I waited forever and ever and ever, and then 2 doctors came in. So the 2 doctors come in and they're like, I'm sorry, you've never had rheumatic fever. And I was just like, what? Like, I was in shock. Like, I think I started to laugh a little bit, which I do when I'm nervous. I laugh all the time just because I like to laugh. But when I'm nervous or when I shouldn't be laughing, I will start laughing. So I was like really confused, and I was like, what? And they were like, yeah, you only showed like a few signs, but you've never had all these other things that accompany it. And I was like, well, do you have any idea what it was? Or what it is? And they said no. So I left. I made it back to my car before I completely lost it and burst into tears. I think I had to pull over a couple times on the way home because I was just like, that like insane cry where you can't breathe, and like it was terrible. But I get home and just trying to, I had a kind of a week off from school, so I was able to just stay home. But for a few days, I couldn't even tell my parents because I just like couldn't even believe it. It took me a few days to tell them. It was just crazy, and I didn't even know what to think. And my next appointment, my like follow-up with the rheumatologist, wasn't gonna be for another month, and I was like, I am not waiting that long. So every single day for about a week, I called the office to ask if there was a cancellation. And finally I got in to see her, and I like couldn't even talk without crying. Like I was so upset. And she finally was just like, okay, well, we think that maybe you have fibromyalgia. And I was like, all right. And apparently there's not really a test for that. And I didn't really know much about it, except that I'd seen the commercials on TV for all the medications and stuff, and I knew that it was like a nerve thing, and that it was like widespread pain. I knew someone whose mom had it, and she talked to me about it a little bit, but yeah, she was just kind of like, yeah, maybe fibromyalgia, here's all this paperwork on it. And I read the paperwork, and most of my symptoms match, but that's, I don't know, I feel like anytime you look up an illness, like the symptoms match. Because I have a lot of like digestive issues and stuff too. That started earlier when I was about 17, but like that is a symptom of fibromyalgia. But I don't know if I have it. I guess it's not enough for the medication that you see on TV, because she didn't like prescribe me any of that. So I just kind of left and was like, all right. So yeah, that's where I'm at right now. I'm kind of in medical limbo. I don't know, for a really long time I couldn't decide what I was gonna do about it, because I mean, I was in grad school. I didn't, at least for the moment, I didn't want to mess with, you know, the stress of like waiting for doctor's appointments, and luckily I have insurance through my school, but like the cost of copays and all that kind of stuff, and tests, and just all that like mess I didn't want to deal with while I'm in school. You know, and I was able to do enough research on fibromyalgia to kind of be able to look up like what people do for pain relief and that kind of stuff to try to get some ideas. But for the moment, I've kind of just decided that I'm okay with that. You know, I was worried about, you know, like, oh, well, when people see me walking with a cane and they ask me if I don't have like a thing, like a name of like, oh yeah, this is what I have, like, what are they gonna think I'm faking or whatever, which sometimes people do anyway, just because I'm young and I'm walking with a cane. You know, I get stares, looks from people. People just want to know if I'm like making a fashion statement. I don't know what kind of statement that is, to just be like, oh, here I am with a cane. But I don't know, I've decided that doesn't really matter to me. That's not really their business. A lot of my artwork kind of revolves around like what can happen to you if you let those fears or those anxieties like live inside you too much, and you kind of recede inside yourself and get trapped in your own sort of like mental cage. I dealt with that for a while. I was like really worried about how much to tell people, how much to share. I still struggle with it a little bit because I really don't want to seem like weak to people or like be a burden on my friends and stuff, which it doesn't really seem to matter how many times they tell me that's not true. Like I don't like to ask for help. That's something that's like really hard for me. It's just like a fear of being an inconvenience, which I'm trying to work through. I've been trying to just be more open about it to kind of get myself out of that and, not make it a big deal, but just like when I need help, I need help. And when I don't, I don't. And I do metal work, and I started, since I use a cane all the time, I was like, well, I also love fashion. So I was like, if I'm going to walk with a cane all the time, I need different ones to go with my outfit for the day or whatever. So I fabricate metal canes. I've got a couple of them. I was selling them for a while. I do want to start doing that again because they're really fun to make. I got like about 5 of them that I just keep in my car and like pick which one matches my shoes that day or whatever. But that's part of how I deal with it. I'm always trying to stay positive about it. I do deal with like anxieties of disappointing people. I am somebody that if I'm late for school or if I have to call out of work for a day because I can't walk or because I'm sick, like that just like that tears me up inside, especially because I work part-time as a teaching assistant while I'm in school, and one, that job's really important because I'm hoping to teach college, so that's really important for my career, and I only work 2 days a week usually, like 2 or 3 depending on what I'm doing. So that just stresses me out so much when I'm having too much joint pain to go to work one day, and I'm like, really? Like, I work 2 days a week. There are 5 other days that this could happen. Why does it have to be this day? But you just gotta deal with it. Like, it happens, and I always try to, like make up for whatever I miss, and I've had to learn how to work around it as far as school, and, if I need to, I'll go into school on a weekend instead to get work done. Like, I gotta figure it out. Another thing that's like anxiety for me is traveling, just because of like the digestive issues and the joint issues. I always travel with like a ton of medication. Again, like, if you're going on vacation, you want to plan a ton of stuff and you want to have a lot of fun stuff to do, and that always just like gives me anxiety because, again, I'm afraid of like disappointing people if I can't like meet their expectations for what they want to do, which, I'm not really giving myself or the people I'm with much credit, honestly. I mean, I travel to visit my sister, or I travel with my partner, and, he knows me. He knows that I want to be doing all of these like cool adventures with him, and sometimes we just have to take it at a slower pace, and that's okay. And, as long as I'm trying, like, that's all he wants for me is like to know that, I'm not gonna give up, and I'm not. Like, that's just not who I am. So something I'm dealing with right now is trying to find real jobs. I've been in school. I'm just about to finish 2nd year of grad school. I've been in college for 8 years straight. I guess I'm just a really big nerd. It's pretty crazy, but I've never had like a real job. I can't actually, like, physically, I can't work a full-time job right now, which I think is okay because fresh out of college, I'm not gonna get a full-time teaching job right away. But it's really stressful because for a long time, I guess I wasn't like okay with saying like I'm a disabled person or I'm a differently abled person. When it comes to a job application and it says like, are you disabled? I used to always say no but then there would be like parts of the job that I couldn't do or I needed help doing, and it was just kind of like a weird thing. So I started putting yes all the time, but that's still just like, it makes me anxious because, if I don't get a job, now I'm afraid that I'm not getting a job because they're afraid I can't do it, which, of course, that would be discrimination and that's illegal. But the fear is still there. Like, but yeah, it's just, that's really hard because I'm afraid of not being able to find a job or like being able to support myself, my family, and I live with my partner, so there's just two of us, but still, like, I want to contribute to our livelihood, and it worries me that I won't be able to, but it's just the anxiety. Like, I firmly believe that things will work out when they're meant to, and I am super ready to work for it. I've been applying to teaching positions. We currently live in Missouri, but both of us, we just want to like travel, go live somewhere else in the country for a while. Out of the country would be awesome, but I don't think that's feasible for me right now. But we've just been like, I've been researching colleges across the country, and I'm gonna see who's hiring and see who I can just send out my information to, and hopefully somebody wants me, and we'll go from there. But I gotta keep at it, and I'll find something eventually. I think the most important thing when you're dealing with chronic illness is having people around you that really support you. If there's somebody in your life that isn't really supportive, they don't need to be there. If they're not going to be supportive of you, that's toxic, and that's not good for you and your health. So people around you that support you and being able to support yourself emotionally, I think, is really important too. Because your support system isn't always going to be around. And I think like trying to have like healthy, not always like happy emotions and healthy emotions, but being able to recognize your emotions. When I was doing my undergraduate degree, I lived in Indianapolis, and I lived by myself for almost 4 years. And there was a lot I had to deal with on my own, and I had to learn how to get myself out of panic attacks. I had to get like healthy habits, like healthy emotional habits, and figure out ways that when I can tell that I'm having a bad day or I'm feeling really down, like little things that'll just like help bring me back up, so that I don't just let that negativity like sit in my brain and just eat away at me. So obviously self-care is like a really important part of that. I obviously, with joint pain, I can't just like go for a run all the time, but I do work out when I can. I have some like home gym equipment, nothing like fancy equipment wise, but I've got one of those like big yoga ball things. I have a weighted hula hoop, which is actually really fun. It makes your stomach muscles super sore until you get used to it, but it's a really good workout. And I also got really into like not boxing because I don't do it at a gym, but I've watched like boxing class videos trying to like work on my stance or whatever, and I just have like a little mat that's like this big, and gloves, and I just will like box for a while. That's a really good workout. I've got just like free weights and stuff and some jump ropes, and I'm trying to figure out right now the best sort of balance, because I have like routine moves that I do and I try to switch up, and I usually try to work out 2 days a week, and I'm trying to decide if it's better that I try to work out on Sundays and Thursdays, and I'm trying to figure out if it's better to try and stick to that schedule even if I'm having a day where I'm in a lot of pain and so I can't really do the full workout, or sometimes hardly any of it, or if it's just, if I want to get in that routine and try to build that routine for later, or if I should just work out on whichever days I feel good in the week. So I'm trying a little bit of both of that to kind of see which one works better for me. Along with that goes like eating healthy. Now, I'm not the healthiest person. I will be the first to admit that. But I do always try to make sure I like eating a lot of vegetables, like just trying to get like really good nutrients, lots of vitamins. I've been trying to drink a lot more water. That's always good. Another thing I do is trying to get outside. Even if I'm not necessarily like running or biking or working out outside, like just getting in some fresh air, that always makes me feel better, especially when it's nice out. I haven't been lately because it's April and it's snowing today, but when I can, I try to get outside, even if it's just getting outside and reading a book, like just sitting and relaxing. That always makes me feel better. I'm also really into crafts. I sew and I crochet and just like any little craft projects. I think those are really fun. They'll take my mind off of things and just like give me a project that obviously doesn't take a ton of physical energy. Those are always good things to do. I also really enjoy just like taking a bubble bath, putting on a face mask, that kind of thing, just like reading, watching Netflix, whatever. Watching Netflix is something I probably do a lot too. Just if I'm having like a really, really bad day, just like watching like junk TV that's like really silly. But I love to just like online shop. I will shop for anything. It doesn't matter if I can't buy it because I don't have money. I love to shop, but I'm a sculptor and I love to buy power tools, but I also love to buy shoes. And I will shop for any of those things, everything in between. Shopping and looking up recipes online, that can occupy me for hours. And the last thing I have a little list right here, but something else that I just started doing really recently is like breathing techniques to calm myself down when I need to. And there's a ton out there, but I found out about it from watching the new Queer Eye show on Netflix. At the end of the show, they'll always do like a little tip or whatever. And so the one day, Jonathan shows a breathing technique, and I tried it, and it's actually really nice. So what you do is you go like this with your hand. Hold one nostril shut. Deep breath in. Hold it. Switch nostrils. Breathe out. And I don't know what it is that is different about that breathing technique, but I feel like, I don't know, like having to stop and like hold your nose like forces me to take that extra second before I breathe out again. And something about the coordination of the nostrils, like, I don't know, it like takes more focus or something, but I really, really like doing that. It's really helpful when I'm just trying to like de-stress for a couple of minutes, like just something small, even if it's just in the middle of the day or I'm at work and I just like need to breathe for a sec. Like I'll go in the bathroom or like go in a corner where people won't look at me funny, and I'll do that. But those are the tips I have for trying to stay positive. If anybody sees this and you have similar issues or like want to talk or ask questions, I am always, always, always open to talking to people about it. I really want to, try to build up a community as much as I can of support and love. I think it's really important to share these kind of stories. So if you've got one, I would love to hear it. And thank you so much for watching. See ya.